Millionaires pay $0 in taxes? Yeah, right. Come on, David. Well, here's the thing, guys. It's actually not clickbait. This is actually a real thing, and it's a sort of, I don't want to say loophole, but it's a form of tax incentive that allows people who make a ton of money to pay pretty much no taxes at all. And this applies to very specific situations, but if you can qualify for it, you are eligible to pay pretty much no taxes no matter how much money you're making. And I am at a point where it's getting close to the point where it makes sense for me to try to qualify for this. So potentially in the not too distant future, I may be trying to qualify for the 0% tax incentive myself. But I currently know of people who make $10 million a year who pay $0 in taxes because of this. And that might sound absolutely ridiculous because you're thinking, David, people who pay, well, I guess people who make $10 million a year are supposed to be in the highest tax bracket. What is that, like 40%? If you live in California, it's another, what is it, like 18% state? I mean, you're supposed to be paying like half your income, right? If you make over $1 million. Again, this thing, I swear, very few people know about it, so I just wanted to talk about it in this video so you guys understand the insane potential, and I just want to put it on your radars because I think it's pretty cool, and I plan on trying to take advantage of this in the near future. It is called Puerto Rico's Act 60, and to tell you guys more about it, I'm actually going to dive in my computer so I can show you guys some images and go through this article basically so I don't mess up any of the facts. Now, before I dive in, I just want to say I'm not a CPA. Please talk to a tax professional before you go making any tax decisions. I'm not one of those. I'm just a dude in my basement who likes doing research. So keep that in mind when you're making your decisions. So subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video if you find it helpful or interesting. Drop a comment saying, David. Yeah, you can just comment my name. And yeah, let's dive into my computer. Now, before I go any further talking about how this insane tax incentive works, I want to mention a brief fact for you guys that you might not know if you just live in the US and you've never really thought about taxes too much. The United States is the only country in the world where you are taxed the exact same no matter if you're living in the country or if you're living outside of the country. Every single other country in the world has different tax, I guess, benefits, tax plans based on where you are living. So for example, if you live in the US and you make $1 million a year, okay, you're gonna pay X amount of taxes, you're gonna be in the 37% tax bracket. If you live in the, I don't know, in the Caribbean, say you live in, I don't even know, I'm trying to think of a country, I can't think of any country. Say you live in the Bahamas, say you live in, let's say Colombia. So you live in Colombia, right? You're a US citizen living in Colombia, you make $1 million from your business in Colombia. You still owe the US the exact same amount of federal taxes. You're still paying in that 37% tax bracket. There is no other country in the world where this is a thing. The only other one that even is somewhat similar is Eritrea. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I have a friend who's from there, but I still never learned how you pronounce that correctly. But what they have is, I think it's like a 2% tax. So if you are abroad and you're still making money, they tax you 2% on what you're making. So imagine if you were a US citizen living in Colombia and you decided to make $1 million. I guess you just decided to make $1 million. You'd be paying 2% tax versus the 37% tax bracket. So the US is like insane in that regard. The United States is an exception. It is one of the few countries in the world which levies personal income tax on all its citizens, not only its residents, citizens or non-citizens, but also on citizens who do not live in the country. So you cannot escape paying taxes no matter where you go in the world, except for this one thing, this one rule, Act 60, Puerto Rico, which is why it is so cool. So I just want to give you guys that context because you might not have realized that it's not like this everywhere in the world. Like if you are a German citizen and you're making money not in Germany, you're not paying like the same tax rate. Now, obviously I don't know German tax codes, but like the US is the only country that's like this, which makes it very difficult to escape if you're trying to, not pay a ton of taxes if you're making a ton of money. So let me keep going down the line for you guys. So Puerto Rico Act 60 is kind of two old rules that were combined. So there used to be two rules, Act 20 and Act 22. And Act 20 used to be for export services. So you would pay a 4% corporate tax rate if you basically had a company in Puerto Rico that provided services to other people and other companies that were not in Puerto Rico. So if you had a company in Puerto Rico providing services outside of Puerto Rico, you paid 4% in taxes. And Act 22, Individual Investors Acts, 0% capital gains tax for Puerto Rico residents. I'm gonna say that again, 0%. 0%. 0%. And if you're a day trader, this is insane. Now, these were actually both sandwiched together, bundled together into Act 60, and I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. The rates for corporate taxes and capital gains tax remain the same. So this is actually so incredible because if you do an export service, you're paying 4% corporate tax. So it's not just for traders. So I want to get into how this would personally affect me, just so you guys can get somewhat of an example of what my tax savings would be, because it is actually nutso. So here's how you have to qualify, just to go down a little bit. So you can see Act 60 eligible businesses include, but are not limited to, all these different things: research and development, software, consulting, tax, accounting, investment banking, graphic design, project management, engineering, educational and training services, etc., 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 etc. So there are a lot of different types of businesses that could be classified under an export business. What would qualify for this 4% tax rate? And what I do as a YouTuber, or, you know, providing a Patreon service to you guys, running a Discord for trading, those things are considered export services. So if I did that from Puerto Rico, all the money that I make from YouTube, all the money they make from Patreon, that would all be subject to a 4% corporate tax rate. 4% versus the highest tax bracket at 37%. So I'm saving 33%. So if I make $1 million in a year, now obviously it's incremental, so it's above a certain amount. It's not like I'm paying 37% on the entire $1 million, but you get the picture, guys. I mean, even just $1 million, I'm saving hundreds of thousands of dollars because of this. Because of this 4% tax rate. And that's crazy. That is crazy. Now, if I continue down a little bit further, I want to talk about the capital gains. I want to talk about the capital gains tax. Now, if you are a long-term investor and you buy and hold a stock for more than a year and you're just a normal member of the US, you're just chilling in, I don't know, Chicago or something like that. You buy a stock, it's $10,000 and you buy it. You sell it a year later for $100,000. On those profits, that's called the capital gains, that's $90,000, you are taxed at the long-term investment rate, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is 20%. Yeah, the long-term capital gains tax rate of 20% plus the net investment income tax rate of 3.8%. So you'd be paying about, 20% if you hold a stock for a year. But if you're a day trader like I am and you make $1 million buying and selling stock the same day in a year, you're paying at your highest tax bracket. So if you're above whatever that amount is, like what, 300, 400,000, I probably should have looked that up before I make this video. I realized that, but I think it's like what, $400,000. If you're above that mark, you're paying 37%. And potentially the new administration is going to raise that. So you're paying 37% on all those gains. So if you make $1 million, you better write a check for 300, 400 grand because it's going bye-bye, which is insane. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. If you're in Puerto Rico, you pay nothing. You pay nothing. You pay nothing, which is insane. I mean, it blows my mind. So there's zero capital gains tax. Zero capital gains tax. And, I mean, it's crazy. 100% tax exemption from income taxes on all dividends. So if you had $1 million dividend portfolio and they paid you $70,000, $80,000 a year, zero taxes on that. Income tax on all interest. If you have, I don't know, $2 trillion in your bank account and they're paying you $5 a year, which might be some generous interest rates, you wouldn't pay any taxes on that. 100% tax exemption on all short-term and long-term capital gains, guys. So crazy. Again, you make $10 million in 1 year day trading. You pay 0% taxes. 0% taxes. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. And they also recently did this for cryptocurrency and other crypto assets. So insane, guys. I've said that a million times, but it's actually mind-blowing. So the amount of savings and taxes that you would have if you were making a ton of money is nuts. It's nuts. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of things that you have to do to be able to qualify for this because they want to benefit the island by bringing wealthy people in. That's, I think, the goal of this Act 60. But hopefully you guys can see the potential, because if you're making $1 million in 1 year day trading and you pay 0% taxes on that versus the highest tax bracket, oh my goodness. So this potentially for me is going to be a really, really big deal. And I plan on moving here at some point to take advantage of this. I plan on moving there. Now, it's probably not going to be this year. It might be in a couple of years. And there's a lot of different things you got to get into. You know, if you have a long-term portfolio and some of your capital gains came before you moved to Puerto Rico, you can only get the tax incentive on some of that. So keep that in mind. There are certain things you have to do, and there's certain things that cannot qualify. But if you make a lot of money, this is such a good way to save on taxes, and is literally the only way you can do it without renouncing your U.S. citizenship, without just saying, I'm out, bye. So it's crazy. It's crazy. Now, some of the things you have to do to be able to qualify, you have to be a bona fide, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, bona fide, I don't know. Please excuse me, excuse my ignorance, I think it's bona fide, resident. You have to meet the presence test. You can't have a tax home outside of Puerto Rico, and you cannot have closer connections to the U.S. or a foreign country than Puerto Rico. So how do you meet the presence test? Well, you have to be physically present on Puerto Rico, the island, for at least 183 days. Now, that's 365 divided by 2 plus 1. So more than half the year, you have to be on the island. So that means if you want to be in the U.S. for, I don't know, 300 days out of the year, you can't do that and qualify for this. You can't do that. So you do have to give up the ability to be in the U.S. Now, if you can up and move your family, if you're a day trader, if you are a YouTuber, and you can up and move your family and it's not a big deal, then this is a really, really cool thing. But if you have a lot of reasons why you would need to spend a lot of time in the mainland of the U.S., this potentially wouldn't work for you. So keep that in mind. And there are also a couple things. Now, there's some ways where you can avoid a little bit of this, but you still have to meet other things. You still have to meet other, I'm trying to think of the word. Basically speaking, if you are not on the island for 183 days, you got to make sure that you're not anywhere else for more time than you're in Puerto Rico for. So I think you can be on the island less than 183 days, potentially, if you're not in the U.S. for more time than you're in Puerto Rico, and you're not in any other one country for more time than you're in Puerto Rico. So potentially, if you're traveling the world, you're on like one of those cruise ships that goes to 50 different countries and is like a 180-day cruise, potentially that would be fine. So definitely do your research, but you do have to spend a lot of time in Puerto Rico to be able to qualify for this. And there's a couple other things you got to do. You can't have your spouse or child living in there, and you can't have permanent homes there, excluding rental properties. So you gotta do a lot of things. Yeah, so there's a few other things you have to do. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you have to hire someone who is a Puerto Rican resident. Now, if you're making $1 million a year, it shouldn't be too big of a deal to hire someone, but you do have to hire someone, so keep that in mind. You have to buy a house in Puerto Rico, and you have to pay a $10,000 annual donation. Now, versus the tax savings that you're gonna be saving, $10,000 really is not that much. So I personally think all these things, spending time on a tropical island, making a donation, hiring someone, and buying a house, I think these are worthwhile, and I think they're not too much, It's not too big of a deal to do that if you want to save potentially millions of dollars of taxes if you're making multi-millions in a year being a day trader. So I just thought this was really cool. I want to share with you guys. There are a few things about Puerto Rico that are not the greatest. From what I've heard, the infrastructure is pretty bad. I've heard there's a good amount of power outages because the island is not quite as well put together as some of the major metropolitan areas in the U.S. So keep that in mind if you're moving there. Buy a bunch of generators. Make sure you're never going to lose your power. When Hurricane Maria hit, it really hurt the island. So you got to potentially have a plan to be able to leave during hurricane season. That's personally what I would plan on doing. Like not be there during hurricane season and then go there in the winter for, you know, half the year or something like that. I think that would be a cool compromise. And I've also heard, you know, potholes. There are potholes that will literally eat your car. So beware of that. Don't drive your Lambo over those potholes. Don't want to get your car eaten. And I've heard some of the culture aspect is not the greatest. I've heard there's a lot of corruption in the government. And I've heard potentially there's a culture of trying to take advantage of people. And I have never been there. I'm not here to judge people. So do your own research, but be aware, you know, like real estate agents and people might try to take advantage of you. So just know that going in. And again, I'm not here to judge. I've never been to Puerto Rico. I can't really speak on it for myself, but just be aware. When I've been doing research, that's what I've heard. So just, you know, in case you're interested, that is something you should be aware of. But I think for me, one of the coolest parts would be the music aspect, because you guys might not know this if you watch me, but the song at the end of my video is actually my song. I actually make Spanish music. You probably did not know that, but maybe you did. I don't know. I can actually play for half a second here if you guys want to hear the song or two. That's one. And then the other one. So these are on iTunes, they're on everything. But my goal in life would actually be to be a Spanish singer. I would love to do that. And all of my favorite Spanish singers come from Puerto Rico. Not all of them, but like I would say probably 85% of them, which is crazy. And there is a great culture of reggaeton on the island, and it's pretty dang cool. So that is honestly one aspect that I would love. Obviously, the island is Spanish speaking. They speak Spanish in Puerto Rico, so if you don't speak Spanish, that would also make it a little tough. So you got to know that going in. But there are certain communities that are, you know, just a bunch of expats, basically. People who are very wealthy and who wanted to take advantage of these tax codes, and they moved to Puerto Rico. So I've heard there's one that's like pretty much right on a golf course. And man, I mean, if it's the life for you guys, potentially could be cool. So with that being said, I hope you guys found this video interesting. I am going to sign off, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, you know the drill. Let's grow better together. Preguntar, bebé, dime por qué te mientes. No puedes esconder todo lo que tú por mí sientes.